Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. Israelis are heading to the polls in just a few hours in a hotly contested election that was once seen as a sure win for incumbent Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. But with opinion polls showing a close race, is Israel poised to make a change? Joining us to discuss are Elliott Abrams from the Council on Foreign Relations and former national security staff member from President Bush's administration, and Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs and host of National Security on the Voice of Israel, Dan Diker. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Let me start with you, Dan, since you're in Jerusalem right now. Is this going to be a close election?
This is, as you said, this is a neck-and-neck race. The Likud, Benjamin Netanyahu, the incumbent, has been trailing by anywhere between 2 and 4 mandates, but the military guys and gals have just voted. That traditionally has gone to the right for 2 mandates. So this is really a head-to-head race. It can be anybody's race, and certainly Herzog has turned out to be a credible opponent as Netanyahu attempts his 4th term, unknown in Israel, other than David Ben-Gurion, the first Prime Minister of Israel. Well,
Elliott, let me turn to you. You've followed Israeli politics and elections for your entire career. What are the issues in this election?
Well, one of the big issues is personality. That is, do you want Bibi again? In fact, that may be the major issue, actually. Do you want Bibi again, or alternatively, do you trust Isaac Herzog? Is he strong enough to be Israel's prime minister? Also, though we tend to focus on Iran, I think many Israelis are focusing on internal issues, economic issues, cost of living, kind of thing we don't kind of see from the U.S., but that's tended to work in Herzog's favor.
Dan, I was in Jerusalem in December, and it sounded like the Prime Minister called this election because he thought he was going to win. Has any issues come up that have caused the Israeli public opinion to really leave his opinions?
No, I mean, the Prime Minister called this election because he couldn't, the government couldn't agree on what they call the zero value-added tax legislation, and it was actually an economic issue that caused the collapse of the government. KT, Israelis are kind of like a reality show. They kind of like elections, even though elections are prohibitively expensive in a country in which there is an ongoing economic crisis, in which people have difficulty renting and purchasing housing and going to the grocery store, and the cost of living is very expensive relative to what people earn here. On the same time, Israelis like on some level, the mudslinging that's going back and forth between the parties, and this has, as Elliott Abrams says, this is very much a personality election. You know, the Likud's slogan is "It's either us or them," and the slogan from the left is "Only not Bibi," just not Bibi. So this has really been it's really been a contest that people have gotten involved in. The press has actually gotten involved, actually as an actor. I'm talking about the local media, as opposed to as an observer. And so it's been a very dramatic period, and I do think that the Israeli public is culturally is ripe for these types of elections, even though there have been 7 elections since 1996, which is extraordinary.
Elliott, Bibi Netanyahu obviously has been a strong critic of the President Obama's approach towards Iran and the Iran nuclear program. To what extent is there daylight between the candidates on the national security issue and Iran's nuclear program?
It's a little bit hard to say. When Herzog was last in the United States, which I think was December or January, he said he had faith that President Obama would handle the Iran issue well. Obviously, that is not Netanyahu's view. Labor has a security problem. It always has, the Labor Party. When they have won, they've won usually with a general leading the party, Prime Minister Rabin, Prime Minister Barak, who had been the chief of staff in both cases of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force. This would be a big deal if they can win an election with someone who has no combat experience whatsoever. If Herzog is prime minister, the question is going to be, what is he going to say about an Iran deal that most Israelis, like I think it's about 70% of Americans, are worried is a bad deal?
Dan, 20% of the electorate in the Israeli election is in fact Palestinian Arabs. Most people don't realize that. They think the entire state of Israel, everyone there is a Jew. What does this group do? Where do they vote? Where do they come out politically?
Well, I'll reveal a surprise to you, as a matter of fact. Just yesterday on National Security, the program that I host, we had a Palestinian leader by the name of Bassem Eid who basically told us that over 50% of Arabs are actually voting for Jewish parties or Zionist parties secretly because they've completely given up on their own national representatives in the Knesset. The national representatives of the Arab Party, like Zouabi, who was on the ship that tried to break in to the Gaza, break across the military security zone into the Gaza Strip, are really espousing PLO and radical Islamic messages to their electorate. And many Israeli Arabs, have really become sick and tired of those sorts of radical messages, and they want a better socioeconomic reality here in Israel. They want the fight for equal rights. As a matter of fact, Ayman Odeh is the head of the United Party, and this is the first time that the Arabs have united under one party flag. He's talking about himself as the Martin Luther King of the Israeli Arab electorate.
So, Elliott, I'm going to give you the last word. Do you think that the Palestinian Arabs are going to be the swing vote or the kingmaker in this election tomorrow?
No, I don't. There are a couple of Jewish parties that will swing, a couple of new parties, actually, that may be the kingmakers. But the critical thing is going to be, what's the difference? If it's one seat or two, it could really go either way. If either Netanyahu or Herzog is ahead by, 6 seats, let's say, 7 seats, then that's the person who's going to end up as prime minister, I think.
Thank you both, gentlemen. Elliott Abrams from the Council on Foreign Relations and Dan Diker joining us from Jerusalem. If you want to find out more about the upcoming Israeli election, this historic election, tune into FoxNews.com. And thanks for watching DEF CON 3.